I've been using different on-set monitors for the past 10 years or so. Everything from Flanders Scientific to brands that are sold on Amazon that you may or may not have heard of. But recently I stumbled on a monitor that I think may be my favorite handheld director's monitor. And that's the Portkeys HS-8. With my experience in different monitor brands, I've developed a sense of what I like and what I don't like in different monitors. Now today I want to talk about what I think they did exceptionally well, things that I think that could be implemented or improved on, and then how I've used this in real world sets and where I see it fitting in on set in the future. Now you have to bear with me because it's allergy season, so I'm sounding a bit nasally, but I'm really excited to dive into this. As a disclaimer, they did send me this unit to test, but as always, I'm not here to sell anything, I'm just here to give my opinion and how I'm using it on set. First, I want to get into how I found this system. So if you've been following the channel, you know that recently I picked up the DJI SDR system, and I picked it up for a number of different reasons, but the main reason being that you could have both iPad and traditional receivers in one unit without having to have multiple different types of transmitters and dealing with the interference that comes with that. That being said, we were using the DJI SDR system on a commercial recently, and my buddy Easton, who was helping me AC on this spot, brought his HS-8 monitor. Now, I'm always looking for ways to improve efficiencies on set, and whenever he brought this monitor, I was really intrigued. The reason that I really like the DJI SDR system is that, one, it's got a 2-frame delay compared to the Teradek, so it's relatively pretty similar, but two, the ability to hand off an iPad to a director or a gaffer is really convenient on set, especially whenever the director is mainly looking at framing and blocking. Now there is a caveat, because over the 8 months or so running the iPad system, there has been times where I've had to hard restart the iPad because it gets behind and it gets delayed. Now that being said, what fixes that is having a dedicated receiver on the iPad. Now that's a really good solution, but that can be a little bit cumbersome the way that you have to rig it. Now whenever I saw the HS-8, I was really intrigued because it integrates a power delivery system with the monitor, and so all you have to do is have one cable going from the receiver to the monitor. Just needing that single cable and a couple batteries was very intriguing to me. I'm always on the lookout for ways to improve efficiencies on set, and so if there's something that ever causes delay, I want to figure out a way to make that more efficient so that we're never hung up on set. Now, that brings me to build quality. I want to talk about the build quality and what I've noticed about this monitor. The way that Portkeys designed this monitor, I could tell that they were thinking very practically and thinking through the ways that these are used on set. It's a very well machined aluminum housing, and on the front you have a tempered glass that is held in by 4 different screws. Now that's something that's unique and I haven't seen in a lot of different monitors. And what I love about that is Portkeys sells a replacement glass for the front of this monitor for $19. And so in the event that if and when you break the front glass of this monitor because someone's being rough or drop something on it, it's not something that has to be sent into Portkeys to be fixed. It's something that you could do on set. In fact, I just ordered one as an insurance policy that I'm going to keep in the van just in case the event that it does break. Now, something else that I really like is the way that they integrated the MPF batteries. The mounts are milled directly into the back of the screen, and they lock and secure the batteries very well. I love that they went with NPF batteries because they're essentially industry standard batteries now. In fact, since I've been using and testing this monitor, there's been a time where I forgot my MPF batteries charging at the house, and whenever I went to set, the AC ended up having some just in their run bag, so they're very convenient. In addition to the MPF batteries, there's also a M4 VESA mount on the back where you could mount a V-mount or gold mount and then power it from a P-tap to a barrel connector. The monitor itself has a 1100 nit display, which is daylight viewable in most scenarios. The screen comes with 2 different plastic matte screen protectors, which I have one installed on my monitor right now. It does take away a little bit of the sharpness, but it helps reduce some of the glare whenever you're outdoors, so there's a bit of a give and take there. Now, something else that I really like about this monitor is that it has a headphone out. So if you're on a set and you have a hop going to the camera, that reduces the amount of things that the director has to hold. They can just plug their headphones directly into the monitor, just another way to help improve efficiency on set. And that brings me to the UI and monitoring tools on this monitor. Now, the UI is something that I actually like about this monitor. I've used different UIs over the years, and there's some UIs that are very confusing and they hide stuff in submenus, and then there's some UIs that are very good. Now, this monitor is primarily controlled through the wheel, a menu, and exit button, and then there's also 4 function buttons on the top which you can assign. Now, it's not touchscreen like we've seen in other monitors, and I think that that's okay, because a lot of the times whenever you have a touchscreen, especially on a director's monitor or something like that, you're having to deal with smudges and trying to keep the monitor clean. A touchscreen sometimes just adds one more thing that you have to do and keep clean. And something that I really like about this monitor is how fast you're able to adjust the brightness. Now, if you click the wheel, you can bring up the histogram and different viewing tools, and if you click it again, you go into a different menu and you use that wheel to immediately adjust the brightness. The monitor itself has different framing options, anamorphic D-squeeze, as well as airy false color, which is very handy, especially if the director just wants to look at it for their own peace of mind. I personally haven't tested or calibrated this panel, but from what I can tell, it's very close just straight out of the box. If you wanted to calibrate this monitor, you would be able to do that because the monitor does support 3D LUT support, but you'd have to be sending a Rec. 709 image from the camera to the monitor. Now I want to talk about how I've built this monitor out and how I've been using it on set. Primarily, I've been using it as a director's monitor. I think that that's where this monitor really fits in. On the side, I put two different handles that I picked up off of Amazon. And honestly, for the price, I think that they're very good. They feel good in the hand and they feel robust. I haven't had any slipping from the handles themselves. To power the monitor, I had some old NPF batteries laying around, but I decided to get some new ones. Now, I went with the small rig NPF batteries, and there's a few different reasons that I did that. They are a little bit more expensive than some of the other options out there, but what's really cool about these is they have a very good battery management system built in. Getting into this monitor, I wanted batteries that would be able to last and take me at least a couple years. These batteries also are able to charge via USB-C, which is very convenient because even on set, if I forgot a charger, a lot of the times we have a USB-C charger laying around somewhere. In addition, they're also able to be charged in the traditional way with other chargers. Now, I did have an older charger already, but unfortunately, it is intermittent and it didn't work all the time, so I also picked up the small rig NPF charger. Now, what's really cool about this is it's able to take 100 watts in. That way, if you have 4 batteries plugged into it at once, it's able to deliver about 25 watts to each battery, so you're able to get a faster charge. And then to power the small rig charger, I picked up this 100 watt USB-C charger off of Amazon. It's got a few different power out options, and it was the most economical at the time. I think the value proposition on this monitor is pretty strong, especially coming in under $400, but there is a few things that I would add to the wish list for version 1.5 of this monitor. The handle system that I bought for this monitor has to be mounted vertically or else it intrudes on the NPF slots. I wish the sides also had vertical locating pins. Now luckily the heat vents kind of act as that, but I would like to just see it integrated into the unit. The second thing I would love to see from Portkeys is maybe just an accessory that you could go dual NPF to a mini V mount. That way if you wanted to power it off of a 99 watt hour, you could do that pretty simply. And then the last thing that I would love to see from Portkeys is maybe another option for a battery on the back. Rather than just having NPF, maybe they could give us a BPU or something else just for longevity. Just something to note, I did have an issue when I first got the monitor and the SDR was set to 60 frames a second. I would have the signal drop out. I did not have that issue when plugged into a camera, and my buddy did not have that issue on his HS-8. Portkeys did send me a new firmware and that seems to have fixed the issue, but I did want to note that in case someone else experienced that, maybe ask them for the new firmware. So who do I think that this monitor is for? I think that it's a perfect solution if you need a handheld monitor for a client, a director, a gaffer, but I don't know that it's a perfect solution for an on-camera monitor. I think that it may just be a little bit big and too heavy for an on-camera monitor. At around $400, you're really getting the quality and features that compete with some of the higher-end units. My name's Keaton and I'm sharing my journey and what I've learned along the way. If you want to continue growing together, consider subscribing. This is just the beginning of the conversation.